Hey friends, thanks for joining me. We are going to be talking about the first trimester of pregnancy today. Now, before I share anything that I'm going to share with you, I just want to preface all of this by saying I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a midwife, I'm not a doula. This is not in any way, shape, or form my area of expertise. However, I am currently 18 weeks pregnant with my first baby. So these are things that I have experienced recently and things that I thought would be important to share with other women who are just now finding out that they're pregnant or are navigating their way through the first trimester. Anyways, that being said, what I am going to share with you today is some of the things that surprised me during the first trimester of my pregnancy. There are a lot of things that we women expect and anticipate because they're talked about. We all hear about morning sickness. We all hear about extreme tiredness or fatigue, but there are some symptoms of pregnancy that hit me like a train and no one told me about. So some of them I found really annoying and surprising. Some of them even scared me to an extent. These are just things that I want to raise awareness about to you if you're maybe trying to get pregnant or have just found out you're pregnant or you're navigating your way through some of these things in your first trimester. I just want you to know that these things do happen. They're real. You're not alone. And I just want to give you a heads up as to what may be coming so that if it does sneak up on you, it doesn't surprise you like it did me. Okay, so without further ado, here are some of the things that caught me by surprise in my first trimester. So item number one is I peed all the time. There were times that I had to pee 3 or 4 times in an hour. Now, I know you're thinking, well, peeing all the time is something that we all expect during pregnancy, and yes, that is true. We all do anticipate that, and that's something that's pretty commonly known that happens during pregnancy. But in my head, that was something that was going to come way down the line, like when baby was big and pushing on my bladder, right? I was thinking maybe once I'm 20 weeks along or even into my 3rd trimester that I could expect having to pee a lot. But no, my friends. So it's a good thing. That means your body is doing what it needs to do. But yeah, it just wasn't something that I expected in that first trimester. So just a heads up, if you have just taken the test and you have found out that you are pregnant, you're probably going to be peeing a lot. Maybe, if not today, maybe tonight or tomorrow, like very soon. It was one of the first symptoms I experienced in my pregnancy. So have fun with that, ladies. It doesn't stop, by the way. 18 weeks along, I can say it doesn't stop, and it won't stop. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to being free of when this baby comes out. So the next thing that surprised me hugely in my first trimester, and this is kind of tied to the peeing all the time, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but I was surprised by the constant insomnia that I had for weeks. Now, we know that pregnant women are exhausted. Our bodies are literally carrying and creating a new human. It's beautiful, it's miraculous, it's incredible that our bodies can do this. But of course, that wears our bodies out. Knowing how exhausted I was, because I was absolutely dead during my first trimester, I just assumed that sleeping at night would come naturally and easily, but that was absolutely not true. I was restless many nights. I would be dead tired during the day. I would maybe even take a nap in the afternoon if I had the time and was able to. But then for some reason at night, either it would take me a really long time to fall asleep, or I'd be getting up repeatedly to pee, right? There we go, back to the first one. I'd be getting up repeatedly to pee, and it would take me like, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes, or over an hour sometimes to fall back asleep. There were some nights where one pee ended up costing me like an hour and a half of sleep. And then, you know, of course, I'd wake up 20 minutes later after finally passing out just to have to pee again and repeat the process. So, again, I was totally caught off guard by this. This was not something that anyone had prepared me for or told me about. And so I want to make sure you're aware that just because you're tired doesn't mean you're going to be able to sleep at night. You're going to have to be getting up to pee on a regular basis, and sometimes falling asleep is going to be very difficult. So just a little piece of advice to all my new mamas out there who are maybe finding out that they're pregnant or are chugging along in their first trimester. Take naps if you can. I know some of you cannot. I am fortunately able to work just part-time right now. And so on my days off, if I can enjoy the luxury of a nap, I do that. And I encourage you to do the same. It's really difficult, those nights of not being able to sleep in the first trimester. So if you can take a nap to make up for it, please do that for you and for your baby. The next thing that caught me off guard, and this one is probably the scariest of the list, so please listen and be aware that I did black out and pass out a couple of times in my first trimester. Now, both times, I think I probably could have been more proactive or preventative in my actions to make sure that these didn't happen. Okay, I could have done what pregnant ladies are supposed to do, which are to hydrate, sleep, and eat. Those are like the most important things you can do for yourself while you're pregnant. Hydrate, sleep, and eat. When I fell short in any of those three areas, my body couldn't keep up. And the worst two times were when I blacked out and passed out. And I just want to share a little bit more in detail about how those came about for me so that you can kind of know what is best and how to make sure that this doesn't happen to you in your own pregnancy. So the first time it happened, I was 6 weeks. I had had a really hard time sleeping one night. Again, the insomnia was kicking hard. And so I did not get out of bed until really late. It was the weekend. Both my husband and I had had a hard time sleeping that night, actually. And so we both stayed in bed until around like 10:30 in the morning, which is really unusual for us. But we did. And because I had gotten out of bed so late, I hadn't eaten in a really long time. It had probably been like 14 hours since I had had my last snack or meal. So I went a really long time without eating, a really long time without drinking, and brilliant me decided before I eat breakfast, before I do anything, I really want to wake myself up and take a shower. That was not the best decision I could have made for myself at that time, but I did it. I wasn't feeling super well because, of course, morning sickness is alive and well in that first trimester. I was feeling pretty weak, pretty tired, and I get in the shower thinking that this is going to help me, make me feel better. It was a hot shower, so my body went through a rapid change in temperature, and after about 5 minutes, I started to feel really lightheaded and really nauseous simultaneously. Thankfully, my husband was very close by, and as my vision started to blur, I said to him, "Babe, I think I'm going to pass out." And again, thank God he was so close because he was able to be there next to me really quickly and was actually there to catch me as I collapsed to the floor. So my poor husband, I feel almost worse for him that he had to see me in this state than I did for myself having to go through it. But I literally collapsed. I passed out right there in the shower, butt naked. He caught me and helped me kind of fall into a sitting position. And I was throwing up on myself while I was passed out. It was just a terrible, terrible 30 seconds. My eyes were wide open, according to my husband, and he had no idea what was going on. And again, because no one had talked to us about this or prepared us for this, both of us were really scared. Of Of course, I wasn't even conscious while it was happening, but as I started to wake up, I was shaking. I was just so worried and afraid of what was going on. I finished throwing up after I was waking up, got out of the shower after I rinsed off, ate something, drank something. I felt pretty terrible the rest of the day, but I was okay. And when I talked to my midwife about the situation, she said, yeah, that's pretty normal. Just make sure you're eating and drinking enough throughout the day. And so I know my shortcoming there was that I went too long without any food or hydration, and my body couldn't take it. So it gave in. So don't let that happen to yourself, ladies. Please, please, please be aware. It's so scary when that happens. And if my husband hadn't been there, that could have been really dangerous for myself or for my baby. The second time that I passed out, I was actually in church, and I had eaten, I had drank that morning, but I hadn't slept a lot that night. I went to bed way too late. We were out at a family gathering. We got home early in the morning, and I did not get adequate sleep. But since it was Sunday, instead of sleeping in like my body needed, I woke up on the earlier side to go to church a little earlier. I could have gone later instead, but my husband and I had planned on going earlier, so I got myself out of bed and went earlier. Sure enough, I passed out in the pew. But again, that was my own not being adequately prepared for the day as a pregnant woman. So, when your doctor tells you to eat, sleep, and drink, please do yourself a favor and actually do those things. It will save you a lot of stress if your body is at all like mine. And again, this is my own experience. You might never have these issues, but I just want to prepare you so that you know that this could be coming if you don't take care of yourself, and so that you're not as panicked if it does happen to you. This does happen to pregnant women. So don't think that because you pass out while pregnant, you have to go to the ER and end up racking up a huge hospital bill. I mean, the first time I passed out, my husband literally was like, do I need to get an ambulance? What do I need to do? And, I'm glad that we didn't. But definitely just bring it up to your midwife if you're concerned, but just know that this could be coming. The next thing that surprised me during my first trimester was that I actually lost weight. Now, a lot of women lose weight in their first trimester because they're throwing up a lot. I wasn't throwing up a lot. I probably threw up less than 10 times during my first trimester. It was not terrible. So that wasn't the reason for my weight loss, but what I do think caused it was that my metabolism was increasing, making a baby. I was eating only a little bit more than I was prior to my pregnancy, but my body was still working hard making this baby. So I actually lost weight. And when I say that I lost weight, I mean it wasn't a significant amount. I believe at my lowest I was down maybe 5 pounds. And that was something that my midwife was not worried about. And this is something that does happen to a lot of women in their first trimester. So I just want you to be aware of the fact that, if you're not gaining weight right away, that's okay. I'm 18 weeks along, and I only just started putting on weight in the last week and a half. Don't panic if you are not gaining weight or if you are losing weight. Again, if it's worrying you, just bring it up to your midwife or your OBGYN the next time you're in. One more thing that kind of surprised me in my first trimester was just my increased awareness about my own health and well-being, but also the frequent worry about my baby. Now, of course, this is the year 2020. There's a pandemic going around. This is a crazy year to be pregnant. And that is one element of my worry. But even without all of that going on, just knowing that there's a little tiny body growing in me that I cannot yet see or feel or hear I was constantly thinking about how is what I'm doing right now impacting my baby? Is it okay for me to do this right now? Is this pushing the limits too much? Is my baby okay? These were my first weeks of being responsible for another life inside of me. And so with that, there was definitely a new element of awareness, a new element of potential concern when my body isn't quite acting right, or when I have a pain in a certain area, or when I've eaten something and I think, oh, maybe that wasn't the best thing for me to eat. You know, just a heightened awareness and worry about my health and the health of my baby. I'll say now that definitely does change over time. Like now at 18 weeks, I'm feeling baby all the time. So my worry is definitely extinguished a little more quickly if like I move in a weird way and it kind of hurts and I think, oh no, like is baby okay? Well, 4 hours later, I'll feel baby kick and roll. So then I'm like, okay, well, baby's still moving and active in there, so everything's good. But in the first trimester especially, when you cannot feel or see your baby, you don't have a bump yet, there's no visible sign of the health of your baby. And that can be really, really nerve-wracking. And so just know, mamas, your baby is dependent on you, and it's important to be cautious about what you're doing. Again, listen to your midwife or your doctor's direction. Do what you need to do to have a healthy pregnancy, but also be at peace once you've done those things, knowing that you're doing the best that you can. And don't be hard on yourself if you do tend to worry. All right, mamas, I hope some of this was helpful for you. If you have experienced any of these things and you'd like to talk about it, or maybe if you're in your first trimester and you have weird things going on that have caught you by surprise, feel free to talk about those things in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like. If you absolutely loved this video, feel free to give me a subscribe. I'd love to talk more things pregnancy and babies with you as I continue on this journey myself. I hope all of you have a great rest of your day or night, and I hope I get to see you soon. Bye.